So I'm Lisa Barnes. I'm the VP over R&D and Regulatory. I've been with LifeVantage for almost 3 years now. It's been an incredible ride since I've been here. I feel like I haven't moved my foot off the gas pedal since I've been here, because we have been moving and innovating and really transforming LifeVantage and moving us into this new era of activation. So first, I want to talk about the environment we live in right now, because it's really interesting. A lot of people are looking for something different. Now, people are looking for something different on the business side, but people are looking for something different for their health. They're looking for something that is different than traditional medicine, because traditional medicine is symptom-based. It is separated by different specialists that are focused on very specific things. And they're not looking at the holistic person necessarily at all times. They are looking at their very segmented specialty. And so because of that, you end up with people that go from doctor to doctor who never talk, who just keep adding medication to medication, and are essentially just seeking symptom management and not getting to the root cause of what's going on in their body. And people know that there has to be something more. And that's what this represents right here on the screen. These are just a few of the books that have come out in the last few years that, if you read between the lines of these books, they don't use the word because they don't know the word, but this is activation that they are talking about. And they're treating it like it's something new that they're discovering. But we were talking earlier about how we're that best kept secret, and we need to be louder and prouder and getting out to everybody, because we have been doing activation for over 20 years. While people are starting to dabble in it, we are experts in it. It's not something that we're just learning to do. It's who we are, and it's in our DNA. And so what the environment right now is prepping us for is a bunch of people who want what we have, but they don't have the vocabulary yet. They don't know what activation is, but that's where all of you guys come in, because you have this amazing solution that's targeting the basis of what's going on in their body, the crisis that's going on in their body, and it's up to you to share this solution that is so different from what everyone else has. Now, what makes us different? There's a little bit of pizzazz here. This is all the pizzazz you're getting in my presentation, besides just my sparkling personality. LifeVantage is the activation company. That's what sets us apart from everyone else. Now, activation, we'll talk more about it in the next slide, but activation is very simply, you take LifeVantage products to make what your body needs for health. Because as you age, as you face stress, as you live in the environment that we live in now, everything gets out of balance. Processes slow down, processes speed up, and all of that leads to multiple health issues. So instead of supplementing, because what supplementation is, okay, I'm missing collagen. My collagen is decreased. I add in collagen. I'm low in vitamin C. I add in vitamin C. But it's not getting to, why is my collagen low? Why is my vitamin C low? It's not getting to the root cause of what's going on in the body. It's putting a Band-Aid on it. It's like trying to put your finger in a dam of what's going on in your health. But we are different because we are getting to the root cause, and that is what activation is. So we talk about it as take it to make it. So we're empowering our body to make the things that it needs for health. So be it antioxidants, proteins, enzymes, all of those things that we need for a better health. And it's so interesting. There's more and more companies that are popping up, and they'll act like their technology is very innovative. And one of the ones that's been popping up a lot lately has been talking about peptides. And people have been asking, oh, what makes us so different from this other company that says these amazing peptides? And so with activation, we're not giving you peptides. You're taking LifeVantage products to make your body's own peptides. So you are making your body's own necessary building blocks for all of the processes instead of just supplementing. Here we have some of our fantastic activators, starting with our Protandim Nerf 2 Synergizer. That's the one that started it all, our original breakthrough. That's the one that was a phenomenal product, but it sat on a shelf at the beginning of its history, and no one knew what to do with it because no one knew what oxidative stress was. No one looked at this bottle and said, oh, that's what I need. They needed voices to tell the story, and that's where LifeVantage was born, because it provided the mouthpiece to talk about this amazing activation story. But that's where it started, but it didn't end there, because we're not the Protandim Nerve 2 company, we're the activation company. So we applied that lens to all aspects of health. So we have another one here, our True Science Liquid Collagen. So you're taking it to make something you need for health. You're taking it to make collagen. And actually, something that's really interesting about our collagen is it's actually more than just making collagen. We actually help you maintain the collagen that you make, because there are enzymes that break down collagen. So if you're increasing it, but you're not decreasing the enzymes that break down collagen, you're not going to see that big of impact. But because we have a multi-pronged mechanism, we see greater impact to our collagen than other products on the market. There are a lot of people who take a collagen that they just get at a Costco or whatnot because they've been told that they need to. They don't experience any benefits. It's part of their routine. It's cheap. It's whatever. But then they switch over to our activator, and boy, do they see and feel a difference. They, at that point, realize the difference between supplementation and activation and how that actually truly affects your quality of life and health. And then we have our latest MB, which I will talk about in a second in lots and lots of detail. So here's kind of a nice take it to make it, because you need to keep it simple. My team does all of the things, all the research, and we're going to also talk about that, the detailed process, and really how we dig in to make sure that the products that we are releasing are the products that are going to change people's lives. But you don't need to know all the details. You can tell this activation story as simply as take it to make it, okay? We're taking Protandim Nerve 2, we're making antioxidants. Do you know what? The world that you live in, there's a lot of toxic things that are happening. So stress in my body is going up, and my protective mechanisms in my body going down. That's the wrong ratio. We don't want that happening. It ends up being health problems as a result. So wouldn't you like to take something that will make your own antioxidants? Because didn't you know that you could take antioxidants, but the antioxidants that your body makes are more than 1 million times more powerful than ones you can take. So you could spend money on an antioxidant like a vitamin C, or you could spend money on a Protandim Nerve 2 and make more powerful antioxidants. What's the better investment in your health? Then we have True Science Liquid Collagen. You're taking it to make your own collagen, and we talked about that activate, replenish, maintain mechanism of action. We're activating collagen. We are replenishing it because there is a supplementation portion to it, and that gives some quick results. But then we have a maintenance where we're lowering the enzyme that breaks it down. So we're differing by having a multi-mechanistic mechanism of action to address collagen. Because something that you will see with all of our products is that we never approach a problem through one pathway. Because if you approach a problem through one pathway, you can help some people. But if you look at a multi-mechanistic approach, you spread out your net of those you can help, because you don't know exactly what's going on in their bodies that's causing the collagen to go down, the GLP-1. But if you implement multiple mechanisms of action, you have more of a chance of being able to implement more change. Because it's all good and fine if the science is cool, but if it doesn't actually change people's lives, it's not the right product. Because that's what matters at the end of the day. Cool science is fun, but lives being changed is what's going to give you that fulfillment at the end of the day. And then we have our MB system where we're making GLP-1. So speaking of GLP-1, let's talk about what it is, because it doesn't make any sense to take a product to make it if you don't know what it actually does. And I think there's a lot in the media about what GLP-1 is. And so if you think of GLP-1, people automatically say weight loss. And the reason they think of that is because of the synthetics that are out there. They have these synthetic versions of GLP-1 that stay in your system for up to a week. Natural GLP-1 actually only stays in your system for 1 to 2 minutes. So you can see a difference right there between synthetic and naturally produced GLP-1. And with the drugs, everyone's always focused on weight loss. Which celebrity is losing weight? Who's on it? But GLP-1 is so much more than that. They're missing out on such a big picture of what this hormone does for health. Because it is a hormone, which means that it's an important communicator. It's a messenger in the body. And it's specifically made down in the colon and lower small intestine by cells called L cells. Now, why that's important is when we make products that are addressing this, if we don't take that and keep that in mind, and I create a product that doesn't actually get down to the colon and stimulate L cells, once again, science can be cool, but it's not actually going to work. So we have to take that into mind when we're creating our products and crafting them. And then GLP-1, like all the other things I've been talking about, declines naturally with time. So it's diet, it's aging, it's all of your lifestyle choices. Many things will influence it. So once again, we're seeing the wrong ratio happening as you're aging. And thankfully, there's something that you can do about it. So that's what it is. Let's talk about what it does. So you can see here, gut-brain connection. It's going to help restore that communication. And what that looks like. Reduced hunger signals, helping with satiety, helping with cravings. Because if your gut and your brain are talking, you are craving the things your body needs. You are able to hear when your body is full. You are listening to your body. We are so out of touch with what our body is saying. We don't have our listening ears on for our body. And that's something, this helps amplify that signal. We still need to actually listen, because we can definitely ignore it still, but it helps to amplify that signal. It also actually physically slows the rate at which food leaves the stomach. Now that's something on the synthetic that, because it's staying in your system longer, it can actually cause some negatives because it's to such an extreme degree. And that's actually what will make you physically ill if you eat too much. But with natural GLP-1 activation, you're actually just having a gradual slowing of the food, just enough to keep you fuller longer and have the amount of nutrition you need is what you're actually craving. It's instrumental in blood sugar regulation. There's more and more research around this hormone in cardiovascular health. An interesting one is oxidative stress. So I talked earlier about Protandim Nerve 2. So you're taking it to make antioxidants. Antioxidants are needed to combat oxidative stress. Now there's a tie. If you activate GLP-1, you lower oxidative stress. And if you lower oxidative stress with like a Nerve 2, you increase your GLP-1 activation. So they are working in tandem, which is why we have the products next to each other, because there's a beautiful synergy in their mechanisms of action just on the biological level. It also helps with improved mood because gut-brain axis. Neuroprotection, there's more and more studies linking the hormone with helping to kind of help the brain stay healthier longer. And then a host of other organ health. So it's when people think that GLP-1 equals a magical weight loss hormone, all the research points elsewhere. Now, if it's in balance, it's going to help you on your weight loss journey. It's a phenomenal tool in that as you're making lifestyle changes, it makes it easier because you don't have all these voices in your head and cravings that are really contradicting everything you're trying to do. But this is a health product, and this is impacting your long-term health. What I like to talk about is all this, so I'm in my late 30s, so all the decisions that I'm making right now for my health, and I'm a pretty healthy person, so I mean, I could get away probably with not taking anything and not feel, I feel pretty good. I'll be okay, probably not know what I'm missing, but be okay. But everything that I'm doing right now is gonna impact my health in 10 years, in 20 years, in 30 years, in 40 years. And I have a lot of things that I wanna have quality of life for. Kath mentioned I have 3 daughters. They're early teens. I have a lot of milestones with them. I want to see them explore this world. I want to see them grow as human beings, and I want to be my fullest self to be able to do that. And there's a score of other things I want to do. Many countries I haven't been to. Now, in order to do these goals, I need to do the work now to address my health before I have all of these health issues. It's proactive approach to health. So then we're going to talk about our solution, which is our MB system. Now there are 2 products, MB Core and MB Enhance. The reason why there are 2 products is because we activate GLP-1 in 2 different ways. That's where this lovely dual activation comes in. With our MB Core, which are our capsules, we are directly activating L cells in the colon to be able to produce GLP-1. Then we have our MB Enhance that's coming alongside of it. And what it does is it actually goes down to your colon. It is food for the right microorganisms in your gut. And what they do is they start to proliferate, and then they create what we call short-chain fatty acids. And those short-chain fatty acids, they stimulate those L cells to create and produce GLP-1. So we have direct activation with our MB core, and then what we call indirect activation with our MB enhance. Two different mechanisms of action that synergistically work together, so you end up with more GLP-1. But we don't stop there, because you can create GLP-1, but if the GLP-1 is all breaking down, you're not going to get the functionality you're looking for. So we actually have shown that we reduce an enzyme that breaks down GLP-1. So you're increasing your GLP-1 and you're decreasing what would break it down. So net more positive GLP-1. But then there's a dual for the amplification. What that means is we also increase receptors, because a hormone is like a key and it needs to bind to a receptor like a lock. You do not unlock the benefits unless you have a key that goes into a lock. So if you do not have enough locks for all your keys, you're not going to optimize your benefits. So if we were just to create more GLP-1 and not address receptors, we would not be doing our due diligence with creating a product. Thankfully, my team is very diligent, and we did all of the work so that we are not only activating GLP-1 in two ways, we are amplifying its benefits in two ways, so that when you are taking these products, you are giving your body the best chance to have a balanced amount of this hormone and experience all the benefits we were just talking about on the last slide. Okay, this is my obligatory, you're in Australia and you have the TGA and this is what your web page is going to say. But one thing I do want to encourage you is that you have resources, which we'll talk about later. And one of them is a fantastic resource called the Science Page. What the Science Page does, it does not mention MB by name, but it talks about some fantastic ingredients. And I mean, if you happen to look at MB, those ingredients make up MB. And so you are able to share that Science Page and talk about what these ingredients can do. And I would encourage you that that's a very compliant way of talking about this product. So you can talk about, oh, here's what this hormone does, here's some ingredients that address it, and then, oh, I have a product that has these ingredients in it. It's kind of dropping the breadcrumbs and bringing them along. And that's a way to share this product compliantly. So you'll see this on the webpage, but what I would encourage you to do is go to the Science Page, and you can see a wonderful path of how to talk about this. Okay, now before we go too much farther, I want to push pause and move back a little bit and talk about our development process, because that's so important to realizing how powerful MB is and how much research went into it, why it is such a unique product. So this 6 A's on the path to activation is the way of talking about our development process. We've been doing this for years, we just now have the name for it, which has been incredibly exciting for me because this sets us apart from our competitors. So let's start at the beginning with assessing trends. You look at marketing trends. A lot of companies look at them. What that does is it allows you to determine what are consumers needing? What are problems that people are dealing with that need to be addressed? Because once again, like I said earlier, you can have the coolest scientific solution in the world, but if it's not a problem that people have, then you're not helping people. It's not a product that's going to sell because no one needs it. So you need to listen to the needs. But we don't stop there. It's not just marketing. We also do the trend analysis on the science side. We're looking at what's in the literature, what new pathways are being discovered, what are new complementary ways that we could potentially address these targets. We also look at what the pharmaceutical companies are doing, because they're spending millions of dollars. They're not going to spend millions of dollars unless there's a consumer and unless there's a unique target that they can address that will give them lots of money. And what that allows us to do is see what we could potentially naturally activate that maybe they are synthetically supplementing. So it's another pathway to be able to create something truly innovative and provide an alternative for people that are looking for an alternative. Now, you've assessed the trends, you find the need, you determine what the target is, and then it's time to assemble the formula. Now, a lot of companies, you will find ingredients that maybe have some studies on them or traditionally in the literature to address these targets, and then they throw them in a capsule and they launch it. We don't do that. We have a lot of steps to this, and that's the assurance you can have as we launch products. It is And why it takes us time to launch products is because we do the things we need to do so I can have the confidence up here to talk about these products. I've been sharing on this tour that I'm the world's worst liar, everything right on the face. And so, which is good sometimes, but it's horrible sometimes because I'm not good at keeping secrets. But if I didn't believe in something fully, you could tell, like really easily, and I wouldn't even be able to set foot in your company, in your country, because you would know exactly what it is. So I cannot launch a product where we haven't done the things that we need to do and have something that's truly differentiated, and I truly believe that it will do what we created it to do, and we've validated that. Now, with assembling the formula, we start with individual ingredients that have been traditionally maybe used for the target we're looking for. We screen them individually. What targets are they influencing? Okay, that's number one. We find some promising ones. We don't just put them in a capsule then and launch it, because it all matters how you assemble the formula, how you put ingredients together. Because when you put ingredients together, there's three things that can happen. First, 1 + 1 = 2. You have the benefit of one ingredient plus the benefit of another ingredient. You see those two benefits. Yay, but it's not very interesting. 2, you can see negative benefits. So you could actually see them canceling out benefits because they're working in similar mechanisms and it's just not compatible. But you wouldn't know if you didn't test the whole formula. And then third, you can see synergies. And that's what we look for when we create products. We are looking for 1 + 1 = 3, 4, 5, 6, because that's what's truly going to move the needle for people's health. But it starts with the individual ingredient screening and then blends. But we don't even stop there, because if it activates it in the cell, but it's not a benefit that people can feel and experience, it's still not the right formula for us. And so we will then, a lot of times, do small in-house studies where we build multiple formulas and we let people try them for a week, a month, whatever it needs to be depending on the product, and we see what their experience is. It's not a super scientific one where we're taking blood work or anything. We just ask them, what are you feeling? Because if they can feel a benefit and we have the science of our in vitro studies in cells, it's a winning combination to move to the next level. So we do that. And then we're affirming the efficacy, and that's where our human clinicals come in. Double-blind, placebo-controlled clinicals where we are trying them in real people. We're not running the clinicals. We write the protocols, but they're run by independent third-party research organizations. There are people that know nothing about us. They've never been on one of our products before. This is usually the first one that they've ever been on. No knowledge of us whatsoever. And so everything is non-biased because of that. And that's the results that we then present. And that's that's the results I'll be presenting today on Mind Body, because it's gone through this system. But all the things on that left-hand column are nice, but if you don't have this fourth one, assuring the quality, then the product that I'm creating today, that I'm super passionate about, in 10 years is completely different. Because if I don't care about the product specifications, if I don't care about the ingredients quality and making sure that the individual ingredients are meeting specification, or if I replace any ingredient just willy-nilly, we end up with a formula that migrates over time to something that doesn't even resemble what we originally created. And that does not do, because my team is putting in money, we're putting in time and effort and passion, so we need to ensure that same formula that I'm working on today and the team is working on is the same formula that you'll have in 10, 20, 30 years once again. And that's where quality comes in, where we're partnering incredibly closely with the team. And the test of a quality system is whether you will actually reject a batch. Because I think a lot of companies talk about quality, but then they find a lot of ways to be able to pass batches. And so we reject batches. And I think that's important. If it doesn't meet the quality standards, and we reject it and it does not get to you. So it means we are protecting the integrity of our products beyond protecting all the work that my team is doing into the decades. Now, this advancing science one is one of my favorites, because a lot of companies, you launch a product and then you leave it. You're moving on to the next thing. You're just like, okay, done with that. R&D, start working on the next thing. But what we do at LifeVantage is we're always looking at products that we launch and seeing what else we can learn. It could be new benefits. It could be new synergies with other products. What I love about LifeVantage is that I get permission to ask the questions. I can ask the questions, I can do the research, I get the support to be able to do that. And in a world where R&D budgets are getting slashed every day, mine has grown, which shows the support of the leadership team for what we're doing. I mean, it's a completely different experience than I've had in other companies where I've been trying to justify every single thing and everything still is getting slashed. And you're like, how am I supposed to differentiate in this world if I don't have the science to back it up? And LifeVantage puts their money where their mouth is, and we get supported when we are asking those questions. Now, obviously, we want to ask the questions that are going to build our business, but we get supported either way. I was just presenting to the board last week, and I had 3 PowerPoint slides of proposed research that I'm working on for this fiscal year, which starts in July, because we advance the science. We don't just launch a product and leave it. We're launching it and we're caring for it. And what I love about that is that you can know that when you start building your business with a product, you're never going to be obsolete with it. We're always going to keep you cutting edge. We're always going to give you new things to talk about it. So it's never, okay, I'm going to be with this product for a while and then I'll jump to the next one, jump to the next one. You can always keep talking about the ones that you love because there's always something new to talk about because we're always doing that. And then activating you, and that's this business model. So in past lives, I've worked for companies that are not in the direct selling industry, and I would never meet anyone who was a customer, or very rarely. I worked for a company and we would make lotions, and sometimes I'd walk into someone's house and I'd see like the lotion bottle on their counter and I was like, I made that. But that was the extent of my interaction with my customers. I never got any feedback besides what maybe was written on Amazon or whatnot, but never conversations. This industry is beautiful because we have relationships. I'm here, I'm talking with you. I take back all the feedback. It has a real impact in what we do. We look at what products you want to do. We look at struggles that you're having and how we can change resources to make them easier for you to tell a story. How we could create more frequently asked question resources to address your needs. And it all comes from conversations. So traditional businesses don't provide that, but you have access, which is incredibly unique in this industry. So all of these lead to our products, which are incredibly different from what is on the market. And that's the same process we used with MindBody. So I want to walk through a few of the A's with it. So first, we saw the trend. There's GLP-1 agonists. More and more people are on them. It's on social everywhere. You just whisper GLP-1 near your phone and then you end up with 50 ads. I mean, it's everywhere. And so we saw it and then we asked the question, can we activate GLP-1 and can we prove it? And the answer was yes and yes. We carefully selected and sourced ingredients. We went through that process I was talking about, screening individual ingredients, screening blends, screening the 2 formulas together to ensure that there are synergies. We went through the work. We specifically we started with a formula for the US that we launched in October, but then we had to create one for our international markets. The joys of regulatory, my other hat that I wear, is that a lot of ingredients that are allowed in the US aren't allowed internationally. Some of it's good because the US is pretty open, some of it's bad because the US is pretty open. And so it creates a challenge for us. But instead of just taking a US formula and just stripping out the ingredients that don't work and then just sending it out into the world, we look at, okay, if we can't have this ingredient, what else will activate this pathway? What about this one? How will it work with this? And we do all of the same work to ensure that the quality of the product is as good or better than what we are doing in other markets. Because we don't treat any of the formulas we launch differently than others. We're going through this methodical process because once again, can't lie. I mean, I want to come here and be able to talk about a product and a formula that I'm proud of, and it means we've gone through these steps. And that involved cell testing, which we're going to talk about on the next slide, and then study results, which we'll also talk about. Okay, let's jump in. So let's start with the cells. We did in vitro studies in L cells. Those are the ones found in the colon, just as a reminder. And so we had a lot of genes that we influenced. Important to note, GCG, that is a gene that encodes for proglucagon. Proglucagon is a peptide. If you break proglucagon into pieces, one of them is active GLP-1. There's not a gene that encodes for GLP-1, even though some companies claim that there is, which is just faulty science, because it always is a cleaved proglucagon peptide. So you need to, if you want to increase your GLP-1, you need to activate GCG to create more proglucagon. We also have GLP-1R. That is a gene that encodes for receptors. So that goes back to that dual amplification I was talking about. More receptors, more activity. DPP-4, that's an enzyme that breaks down GLP-1, so we decrease it. These two here at the bottom are incredibly interesting to me. And this is actually something that stood out for this particular combination of formulas, was these two neuropeptides. And they work around the gut, along the gut-brain axis. They partner with GLP-1, and they work to help control food noise and cravings. And they are phenomenally high. And so when I saw this, my interest was piqued for the human clinical, and we actually decided to add in a few more hormones to our human clinical to see if we could capture this in blood. Because it's all nice and dandy in cells. That shows us how it works, but we need to show that it actually happens in people, because that's where the money is. And that's how we know that we're actually helping people and changing their lives. And then all this led, we could see in the cells that it was 122% GLP-1 secretion. So they just looked at L cells, put the products on, and then saw what GLP-1 was increased. All of this was incredibly encouraging and what caused us to move on. And then these pretty pictures over here, the more green you have, the more GLP-1. It's just biofluorescence. And so it's an ELISA method of tagging it so you can actually quantify it. So really strong in vitro results, but then we moved into our human clinical. Now it was a 12-week double-blind placebo-controlled study. Important to note, just the product. That's all that people added to their lives. We actually told them, don't change anything with your routine. Do not change your diet, do not change your exercise, do not change your nutrition, just the product. And we actually had people using the product later on who were like, I really want to move my body and I'm really doing this. And at that point we're like, well, listen to your body. We're not going to give you any instructions, but listen to your body. But we were very strict with them because we wanted to see what the product did on its own. Now we're never going to recommend just the product alone, and we're going to talk about how we're going to have a system of how to talk about it. But we wanted to know baseline, where are we starting, so then we can add all these other things to improve the benefits. So let's chat through them. We're going to start first with blood panel results. So first, GLP-1, we saw it in cells, but then we saw it in blood, 220% increase. I'm going to jump over to the other side real quick where we have an 122% increase of GIP. So it's a nice little sister hormone that's created in the upper small intestine, which will pair along that gut-brain axis. Then going down, we see this pancreatic polypeptide. That links to your PPY that you saw on the last slide. So not only were we activating it in cells significantly, we saw an average increase significantly in people's blood work. And we also saw leptin influenced as well. Now this one up here in the middle is incredibly interesting because we chose to specifically look at A1C. And the reason we picked A1C is it actually gives you kind of a snapshot of what your blood sugar has been doing for the last 2 to 3 months. Because blood sugar, if you look at it as it varies so much, so it's hard to track it over a course of a study. A1C is a little bit more concrete. And so we saw 88% of subjects at least improve their A1C by 0.5 units. But what was more interesting to me was that we had pre-diabetics when we started the study. When we finished the study, no pre-diabetics. So we had moved people into a healthier range by lowering it down. So the formula was doing everything that we had created it to do and we had seen in the cell work, but we proved it in people. Now the subjective, so what are people feeling? Top row, cravings. So we have food cravings, sugar cravings, alcohol cravings, soda cravings, or fast food cravings. All of these cravings reduced by being on the product, and you can see the percentage of people that experience those reduced cravings. Bottom talks about portion size, decreased appetite, feeling satisfied, increased ability to resist snacking. The important thing about this is, as a result of everything on the last slide, we have this. Because hormones are all nice and dandy, and I mean, you could get blood work potentially to test some of them, but this is what matters at the end of the day, is what is changing in your life that will lead to the effects that you're looking for. And so we saw incredible results across the board with this system. And then finally, we have some biometric results as well. So we had 8.6% body fat decrease. We also saw subcutaneous fat and almost 19% visceral fat. Now, visceral fat is incredibly important because that's that fat that builds up around your organs that's going to impact your ability to live a long, healthy life. By reducing that, we're helping all your systems and organs work better. That's incredible. And then we also saw muscle increase. Now, on a lot of the synthetic options, one of the things you hear all the time is muscle decreases. So they're losing weight, but they're losing everything. And so they end up being kind of a shell of a person at the end of it, potentially, because they're losing all the things. unless they're being really intentional about keeping their muscle up. But once again, without changing anything specifically for this study, it was positively influencing their muscle gain. And then we saw weight loss as well. So all of this was nice body composition changes for the positive that are going to impact that quality of life as they're continuing to move forward. So I want to talk a little bit about a few of the people. I have a few stats here, so that's why I'm walking over here so I can reference the numbers. So this is a 73-year-old woman who was in our study. What I loved about her was that she was just newly married when the study started. So she was starting her life again. Actually, she said that that was the source of stress in her life, was getting married. She referenced that. She had tried to be on the drug previously and had had no success and had been a chronic dieter for years and years and really had just had felt defeated by it. But then with the MB system, she experienced change. So she had 6.3 kilos, 23 centimeters all around. But what was interesting was 19% decrease in visceral fat. So once again, that longevity, that's going to impact her quality of life. 8.6% decrease in body fat. So that meant that 93% of her weight loss was fat. So she actually gained muscle as well. So she was losing what she needed to lose and changing composition. And you can see it in her silhouette. And there's a really good picture, and we'll have more available on our science page later, of her from the back, where you can just see that change in silhouette and how everything is redistributing. And as a result, she had lower dress sizes and was talking about her confidence increasing. Now we have a little bit of a different story here. This gal is 48 years old, and she's what she described herself as a fair weather athlete, and I get this. So in Utah, we have snow, and so she's an outdoor athlete. So if it's pretty, she's outside running, she's doing all the things, hiking. If it gets gross, she's inside and not doing the things. So fair weather athlete. So she was looking for something to help bridge that gap, realizing that she had this period where she always would have a tendency to gain weight, and then it would make her getting back into her training much more difficult. Now for her, she saw about 3 kilos of weight loss. So about 2 kilos of that was fat. She increased muscle though. And then she saw 6.1 centimeters just on her hip area alone. And you can really see just with the before and after just how her silhouette changed there. And she also just had more defined abdominals and other muscle groups. But on the more subjective side, she experienced snacking less at night, more mindful eating. It really just was changing her relationship in food and just helping her to be able to once again bridge this gap where she wasn't being quite as active as she normally would be, to ease over to when it started getting pretty, which was right after the study stopped. So it was incredible to see, and these are just a couple examples. We have plenty of examples showing how the participants in the study shifted in both appearance, but also different body composition metrics, which for me is more important than the weight, because you could have the same number on the scale, but have so much changing. You could have visceral fat decreasing, your subcutaneous fat, you could have your muscle increasing. The number looks the same, but your outlook for health is so different. And that's why it's so important to get a biometric scale. Don't just be looking at the number on the scale. You're never going to be happy from that. I can tell you that from experience. Look at the other things that are changing, because that's going to be the true indicators of health. And then we also had groups within Australia who tried this as part of being able to, they earned the privilege to be able to try the product early and have their own experiences with it. And so we saw different individuals with different results, which once again was what makes this channel so powerful. Because if you just open your mouth and tell your own story, it could change so many different people's lives, because clinicals are nice, but your own story is even more powerful. The clinicals give you the like the validation that you're kind of proving your story, but your story is what's going to change lives. Oh, there's some additional. Okay, there's some other testimonials here talking about feeling less bloated, less fatigued, mentally clear, kind of mimicking some of the things we were just hearing. Talking about this one's Kellyanne's story that she was just talking about, the energy, the losing centimeters, gaining muscle, dropping body fat, that shift in body composition. And then Amanda's story of having that harmed relationship with food, being controlled by weight, and then not having consistency, but with MB seeing that kind of light at the end of the tunnel And it's impacting a lot of other things, but then a ton of centimeters that have shifted because of these other lifestyle things she has changed. Okay, so kind of talking about, we talked about the results, like what's the narrative behind it? It's redefine, rebuild, and reveal. So you're redefining your body in as little as 12 weeks. You're rebuilding your body composition. So it's important to have, you have less fat, more muscle, and then it comes along with the weight. And all this to reveal a leaner, more metabolically efficient you. All the things you're doing during this time, and this is the first 12 weeks, is setting you up for the next 12 weeks, and the next 12 weeks, and the next 12 weeks. It's all pieces in your journey. But it is a story of body transformation because, like we were just talking about, you're not defined by the numbers on a scale. Actually, that's incredibly harmful if that's what you're focusing on completely. It can lead you down some very horrible pathways. I've shared my story at a lot of these. When I was a teenager, I had anorexia, and so I was ruled by what was on the scale, and I was actually hospitalized and almost died from it at that age. And it all became about what the number was on the scale. And even as it went lower, I never was happier. And I never felt more content, and I never had more self-esteem, because that's not where my confidence would ever come from. That's never where my worth would ever come from. And that's something that I had to learn over time. But it's never going to be about the numbers on the scale. It's about how do you feel in your body? How do you see yourself? How are your clothes fitting? How are you able to move through your world? What are you wanting to do? I want to get on the floor with my grandkids eventually. I want to do that. That's why I'm doing the things I'm doing. It doesn't matter what the scale says. Can I do that? If I can, then I've won. Or am I able to be there when my great-grandchildren are born? All of these things are so much more important than what is on a scale. And so then the question is just, what would a stronger, more confident you look like? Just kind of imagine that. What would you be able to accomplish? Now, kind of going back a little bit to the muscle, because that was incredibly cool in this study that we actually saw muscle increase, and muscle matters. And I think muscle's scary, especially for women. I think we think if we increase muscle, we're suddenly going to become bodybuilders, and we're no longer going to be feminine, and it's going to be all this stuff. It's really hard to become a bodybuilder. You have to really try. You don't just fall into it. And muscle really does matter, because it's going to be about increasing your metabolic rate, because it's going to burn calories more efficiently. It's about your blood sugar. Oh, so not only are you increasing your GLP-1 to help your blood sugar, you're helping your blood sugar by getting more muscle. So it's this compounding results. Cardiovascular health, you're seeing a lot of familiar things from just GLP-1. Bones, strength and functionality, and then that longer quality of life. And so by changing your body composition and making these choices, you are changing your outlook for how your life will look. But it's not just about the products themselves, as proud of them as we are. And that's where I want to go next, because the studies were all just on the product, but that's not what we want you to just do, is take a magic system. Because this is about making the changes that are going to make this a long-term benefit to your health. Because how do you make it different than what you've done before, where you've just done something for 3 months, you've gotten results, you've gone off of it, you achieved the bikini body ready or whatever what you were trying to do, but then you just yo-yoed back up, and then you felt shame, and then you yo-yoed back down, and it's just this constant cycle instead of real sustainable change. So let's talk about that. So we have this MB base, because anyone who's on MB should be doing this. It's not just about product usage, it's these 3 steps. And the next slide will have more, we'll go into more details. So it's identifying the habits and making adjustments, taking the system consistently, and then checking in with yourself. So first, these habits and adjustments. It's in the mind and it's the body. It fits with the name. You're looking at and asking yourself the question, am I actually hungry? You're listening to your body's signals and its voice as it's being amplified. You're aiming to prioritize protein, because as you're adding fiber into your diet with these products, you need to be increasing your protein at the same time to be able to amplify the results. And actually, if you don't, you can experience the opposite results. So you need to be increasing protein, and we'll talk more about that in a second. And then you need to be moving your body. This is just baseline recommendations, what we all know we should be doing and we don't always do. 3 times a week, 30 minutes of purposeful exercise. Your number 2 is that base. So you got to take it. It's every day. When you wake up, MB Core, that's the capsules. You're taking it with the water on an empty stomach. And then you have at least 30 minutes. That's when you take your calories and your MB Enhance. With your MB Enhance, you're going to have 24 grams of protein. Once again, as you're increasing fiber in your body, you're increasing protein at the same time. And so this is part of helping you remind yourself to get that protein in your diet, to be able to optimize the results. And then here at the bottom, we just have usage. So first 7 days, half dosage, 8+, full dosage. You can adjust that. These are guidelines. If your body takes a little bit longer, that's okay. Listen to your body. If your body can move a little faster, that's okay. Listen to your body. Everyone is unique. Everyone's gut environment is unique. Listen to your body. That's what's going to be key with this. But this is a nice instruction to be able to give people so they kind of know basically what to expect. And then third is looking at this, checking in with yourself regularly. So you need to be looking at what is changing, because it's not going to just always be a number on a scale. Is it my relationship with food? Is it cravings? Is it sleep? Is it energy? There's lots of things that could be shifting, but if we don't pause for a second and listen to our bodies, we won't even notice. So we need to be mindful about that. So you need to be keeping track of it and recording it. And then our clinical research, this is just showing the 12 weeks. The study was over 12 weeks. It takes time for natural activation to occur. It's not going to be right where you want it on day one. That would not be healthy in your body. Nothing can increase that rapidly in a healthy manner. We want to do it gradually with your body, and it takes time. So you need to give yourself 12 weeks. But as you're doing that, see what other things are changing as you're waiting for clothes to fit differently, scale to change, whatever is you're looking for to happen. There's many things that will happen along your journey. But that's the base. That's what everyone should be doing. But if they want to accelerate their results, there's things you can do, which we call the activation accelerators. Now, the question you ask is, how much do you want to activate your results or accelerate your results on a scale of 1 to 10? Okay, 1, okay, then you add in 1 of these. 10, you add in 10 of these. These are common sense things, and they'll be on the next slide, that we all, once again, know we should be doing, but we don't do, or we think we're doing, but we're not really doing. That mind body, the MB system, will help make easier. Because you do need to implement this change, because no product is a magic pill, but it's going to be that friend that's going to help you along to be able to make these changes more easily. So here are the 10 activation accelerators. The next slide will go into more detail of what they are, so that'll be a good one to screenshot as well. But you see protein, hydration, avoiding alcohol, ditching refined sugar and processed food. Some of these, if you have them in your diet, they are negatively influencing your GLP-1. So if you want to optimize them, you need to clean out your diet. You need to be moving your body, strength training, sleeping, tracking, being accountable, and then looking at your meal timing. I'm going to give you the next slide because it'll this is the one to take a photo of because it gives you the more details. We also, I think it's in your folder, you have this. It's available plenty of places. It's going to be with every order. We'll have all of this information. So don't worry, you will not be able to escape this information. You will have it available, and every one of your customers will have it available as well every time they have a purchase, because we're going to forget, you're going to slip, they're going to slip, but it's going to be a nice reminder every time they get an order that they need to be adding these things in there. And it's a great conversation starter. If they're not experiencing what they want on this base system, you have some things you can be doing. And after they've added all 10, then we can have another conversation, but there's a lot of room between just the base and the 10. Here's some of those resources. That's kind of talking through the base routine and then the activation accelerators. And then we have all of our things on our website. Here's our science page, and that's where we'll be updating with a lot of these results by the end of the month. Because we just finished this study right before Global, so the team's furiously working on it. I was telling people earlier that I have it in have white papers in my inbox, in my email inbox to review for the team so that we can move them forward. But we will have this updated in the next few weeks. So, I guess I could just leave right now and go review papers. No, but we're moving forward as quickly as possible to make sure you have all the information that you need at your fingertips, because this will be a great tool to have. And then kind of going to this activation promise, because we believe in our products so much that we created a specific promise for it. Because a lot of guarantees are money back guarantee in 30 days. But we're telling people to take a product for 3 months. So that doesn't fit this model. So we created this very specific promise where if you don't experience the results you're looking for, and you need to give it a good college try where you're doing the base and the activation accelerators, but if it's not the thing for you, then you get healthy glow after that 3 months. Now, it's kind of a win-win, because if MB is not the product for them, healthy glow will be. So that's the collagen and the protanum nerve too. They're going to experience wonderful activators with those. So even if that's not the right product for them, they still will have something wonderful that's going to transform their health. And that's what I love about this promise. So last slide. I know we've covered a whole lot, but what do you do tomorrow? You get the product. You take the product. You take the picture. You may not want to take the picture. Take the picture. You're going to want the picture. Record how you're feeling. You're not going to remember in 12 weeks. We think we will. You won't. Life will happen. So over document, because you're going to want it. You can share the photo if you want, or share the experience. That gives you accountability. Then you start having conversations. You share your journey. You share what you've learned today. You are continuously letting people know what we have, what differentiates ourselves, because you have the tools in hand. We've given you an incredibly well-researched, well-designed product that's really impacting something that people are looking for. It's a natural solution to what people are searching for. So we've given you the tools, and I can't just be the one talking about it. I don't have enough days in the year and enough hours in the day to be able to go everywhere to talk about it. That's where you come in to be the voice that's amplifying my voice and amplifying the company's voice to talk about this solution to balancing this critical hormone for long-term health. And so with that, I want to